If you're a cat person, you get it. You love your cat, you think you have this amazing bond. But do you ever get that feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're not speaking the same language? Well, we all think we know our cats, but a brand new study just dropped some results that are, well, they're honestly shocking. And they're probably going to change how you look at your furry little roommate.
Right? You know all their little quirks, the specific meow for food, the way they nap in a sunbeam. But how good are we really at reading their signals during something as simple as, say, playtime?
As it turns out, it is way, way more complicated than you might think.
So we're going to break down this 2025 study from a journal called Frontiers in Ethology. And what they did was they put our cat reading skills to the ultimate test. They wanted to know, once and for all, how good are people at understanding what cats are trying to tell us? And let me just say, the results were not what anybody saw coming. Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the core issue here. There's a huge communication gap between humans and cats. And this isn't just some small misunderstanding, you know? It has some pretty serious, real-world consequences for both of us. This quote from the study really just nails it. When we get the signals wrong, our cats get stressed out, and that can lead to all sorts of health and behavior issues for them. And for us, we get hurt. I mean, think about it. Cat bites and scratches are one of the main reasons people end up with infected animal injuries. So the stakes are actually pretty high. So why are we so bad at this? The study points to something they call the anthropomorphic lens. Basically, we see our cats as our little pseudo-babies or our four-legged best friends. And look, that comes from a place of love, I get it. But it's a trap, because we start thinking they feel human emotions like spite or guilt, and we totally miss what they're actually saying, which a lot of the time is just, hey, I'm uncomfortable, or please, just leave me alone. Okay, so we know there's a problem. How did the researchers actually go about testing our cat whispering skills? Let's get into how they designed this experiment. First, they needed a really simple way to classify a cat's mood. So they used this concept called valence. You can just think of it as the general vibe. Is the cat feeling positive, playful, relaxed, happy? Or is it feeling negative, like it's annoyed, it's stressed, maybe a little scared? Pretty straightforward. Now, here is the most important part. How do cats actually show us that vibe? The study split their signals into two buckets. On one hand, you've got the overt cues. These are the loud, clear, unmistakable signs. Hissing, growling, you can't miss it. But then you have the subtle cues, a tiny stiffening of the body, a slight twitch of the whiskers, or even just going completely silent. And these are the signals that we almost always get wrong. The experiment itself was pretty simple. You had 368 people. First, they took a baseline test, where they watched videos of cats and had to judge their valence. Then, they were randomly assigned to watch one of two short videos, either a training video on cat body language or just a control video about general cat facts. And finally, they took the test again to see if the training actually helped. So, how did everyone do right out of the gate? Well, for those obvious, overt negative cues, people were about 77% accurate. Not bad, right? Pretty decent. But when it came to those subtle negative cues, whoa, the accuracy dropped to just under 49%. That's literally no better than a coin flip. All right, and this is where the study goes from, that's interesting, to, wait, what? Because based on those initial results, you'd think you know exactly what's coming next. I mean, obviously, that's the whole point of training, isn't it? You give people the information they need, and they should get better at spotting those really tricky, subtle signs. It makes perfect sense. But yeah, that is not at all what happened. This right here is the jaw-dropper finding of the entire study. After watching the 2.5-minute training video, people's ability to identify subtle negative cues didn't just stay the same, it got significantly worse. Their accuracy tanked from that 49% coin flip all the way down to a measly 30%. You heard that right. The educational video that was designed to help people actually made them worse at seeing the early warning signs that a cat is getting upset. So what's going on? The researchers think that maybe the short video, which was packed with information, might have accidentally made people over-focus on only the big, dramatic, overt signals, which in turn made them even more blind to the quiet ones. But the weird paradox of the training video, that wasn't the only major discovery. The study also uncovered another really deep-seated problem in how we interact with cats. They call it the recognition-response gap. And this is such a fascinating question because, okay, it's one thing to miss a signal entirely, but what if you get it right? What if you look at a cat and you know for a fact that it's annoyed or stressed? Surely at that point, you just back off, right?
Nope, this is what the data showed. Even in the group of people who correctly identified that a cat was unhappy, a mind-boggling 44% of them chose to interact with the cat anyway. They knew the cat was sending bad vibes, and they still went in for pets. That right there is the recognition-response gap.
And what kind of interaction are we talking about here? Oh, it gets better. For cats that were showing those subtle signs of distress, over 42% of people chose to rub the cat's belly. You know, the belly, that super vulnerable area that's often a defensive move, not an invitation. And over 30% decided to play with the cat using their bare hands. So it's not just that they're engaging, they're choosing some of the highest risk things you can do.
Okay, so we're bad at seeing the subtle signs, and even when we do see them, we often make the absolute wrong call. This sounds pretty bleak. So what's the fix? How do we actually bridge this gap and become the cat people we all want to be? The study's authors argue that the biggest lesson here is that we need to shift our entire focus. Yes, recognizing signals is important, but the real work is in completely changing our own behavior. It's about moving away from thinking, what do I want to do right now? And instead asking, what is this cat telling me it wants?
So what are the new rules of engagement? It's actually pretty simple. Number 1, always prioritize the cat's choice and consent. If you're ever in doubt, the best thing you can do is just create space. Give them an out. The second you see any weird, ambiguous, or negative sign, stop. Just stop what you're doing. Let the cat be the one to restart the contact. And seriously, for the love of all that is holy, please stop using your hands as chew toys.
And that really brings it all back home, to you and your cat. This study forces us to question our most basic instincts, so I'll leave you with this. Knowing what you know now, the next time your cat rolls onto its back and shows you its belly, what's your first move going to be? Will you still see it as an open invitation, or will you see it as a sign of trust that's maybe best respected from a little distance? The answer just might change everything.